Have you ever been in a conversation, a meeting, or even a group of friends, and someone drops a sideways comment? A little joke with a sharp edge, a compliment that sounds more like a dig. Or worse, they publicly point out a mistake you made with that classic, just kidding tone. Everyone laughs, except you. Your heart races. Your face gets hot, and your mind short-circuits trying to come up with a comeback that never comes. Later, when you're alone, the scene replays in your head, and you start asking yourself, why didn't I react? Why do I always freeze in these moments? Do people think I'm weak? If this has ever happened to you, and I'm pretty sure it has, know that you're not alone. The truth is, most people don't know how to deal with these situations. And worse, no one ever taught us to see what's really behind those comments. Today, I want to show you a different path, not one based on Stoic philosophy or feel-good self-help, but one based on a thinker who saw human nature with brutal clarity. Niccolò Machiavelli. Machiavelli never being nice or enlightened. He didn't teach you to swallow insults with grace. What he understood and taught without sugarcoating is this: every social interaction is a battle of perception. It doesn't matter if you're at work, with friends, or at home with family. Whenever someone tries to humiliate you in public, the real issue isn't the comment. It's the power dynamic. Who controls perception controls respect. And if you lose control of your image, you lose the game. Machiavelli wouldn't teach you to meditate. He'd teach you how to keep the power in your hands even under attack. In this video, you'll learn how to flip the script without yelling, without being passive, and without pretending you didn't care. We'll cover why these attacks happen more often to good people, what you should never do when someone tries to humiliate you, and how to use silence, logic, and even improvisation to walk out of any attack with more respect than you walked in with. Stick with me until the end, because the final insight, and maybe the most powerful, is about how to punish someone without raising your voice and without getting your hands dirty. Yes, Machiavelli would teach you that. Let's begin.
If you like philosophy and questioning everything, subscribe to the channel or like the video.
Why do they target you? Have you ever stopped to wonder why some people are always the target of these situations? No matter where they are, there's always someone trying to put them down, expose them, or make them look ridiculous in front of others. And ironically, these aren't weak, stupid, or boring people. In fact, they're often the most competent, grounded, and respectful ones in the room. So why are they the ones who get targeted? Machiavelli would give you a clear and simple answer. The appearance of virtue alone is enough to provoke envy and fear. In other words, the more you show integrity, composure, and quiet strength, the more you trigger those who need an audience to feel important. Here's your first major shift in perspective. Not every attack is personal, but almost every attack is strategic. Some people provoke you not because they hate you, but because they need contrast. If they can make you look foolish, insecure, or awkward, they automatically climb a step in the social ladder. It's a game, subtle, invisible, but very real. And do you know what makes you an even easier target? When you don't react. Or worse, when you react badly. When you try to keep the peace at all costs, or when you explode at the wrong time, you confirm exactly what they wanted, that you're either weak, out of control, or too emotional. Machiavelli understood this perfectly. He said, "People judge more by what they see than what is true, because everyone sees, but few understand." In other words, what people will remember from that moment isn't what was said, but how you looked. If you look shaken, you lose. If you look harmless, you lose. If you look lost, you lose. The game isn't about winning the argument. It's about not letting the other person take control of the narrative. And that control, that ability to shift how the group sees you, begins way before you speak. It begins with perception. In the next part, I'll show you the biggest mistake people make in these situations and how Machiavelli would use that mistake against them with almost cruel elegance. But first, think about this. Maybe you're not being attacked because you're weak. Maybe it's because you have something the other person doesn't.
The mistake that gives up control. When someone provokes you in public, your first instinct is usually to defend yourself. You try to justify, explain, or help people see that the joke was mean or the comment unfair. But what you may not realize is that by doing this, you're accepting the playing field the other person chose. And the moment you do that, you lose. Because now, you're no longer in control of your image. You're reacting to a script that someone else wrote, and that's exactly what they wanted. The biggest mistake in these moments isn't staying silent, and it's not speaking up either. The real mistake is stepping into the trap of trying to look fair or reasonable, while the other person only wants to throw you off balance. When you start explaining yourself in an environment where the intent was already to humiliate you, you're just reinforcing the image they wanted to create of you. You become the perfect target, someone who over-explains, someone who wants to be understood in a space that only respects those who impose presence. Machiavelli said that whoever controls perception controls the game. And when you respond the way they expect, they come off as confident. You come off as emotional. They look dominant. You look insecure. And the crowd watching, even unconsciously, picks up on that. If there's one lesson Machiavelli would make clear here, it's this. The game isn't about who's right. It's about who looks like they're in control. You don't need to win arguments. You need to protect your position. And that starts with something most people never do, not reacting. This isn't passivity, it's strategy. Because when you hold back the impulse to react, you delay the response. And when you delay the response, you take back control. You break the rhythm of the attack. You leave the other person hanging. You show that you're not playing the same game. And that delayed reaction, that calculated pause, has a devastating effect. The attack loses power. The audience stops laughing. And the attacker starts to look childish, insecure, even ridiculous. All because you didn't give them what they wanted. In the next section, I'll show you exactly what to do after that pause. The next step to regain the group's respect and make the attacker feel exposed without ever raising your voice. This is one of the most elegant and effective tactics Machiavelli would teach, and it works even if you haven't said a single word so far.
How to turn the situation in your favor without losing control.
After the pause comes the most strategic moment. Most people think they need a sharp comeback, a clever line, or a quick response to come out on top. But that's still playing on emotional ground. And the real game isn't about winning with words. It's about shifting the focus. Machiavelli understood that whoever controls the focus of attention controls the narrative. And one of the most subtle and powerful ways to do that is to return the provocation as if you were simply asking for clarification. Not with irony, not with sarcasm, but calmly. You look at the person and ask with composure, "Can you repeat what you just said?" That's it. No tension, no accusing tone, no offended look. That simple question has an immediate effect. Now, the person has to repeat the comment. Only this time, everyone is paying attention. What was once said casually, in the flow of a joke, now needs to be justified. And usually, it comes across as exaggerated, forced, or even hostile. At that moment, the attacker loses their disguise. The group picks up on the real tone behind the provocation, and you didn't have to snap back or raise your voice. You just turned the spotlight back on the one who tried to use it against you. The truth is, many public attacks only work when they seem like jokes. When you make the other person repeat what they said, you strip away that layer of protection. They're forced to stand by their own malice, and that's uncomfortable. For them, for the people watching, and there you are, calm, collected, watching. You flipped the script, without looking aggressive, without giving the other person a chance to play the victim, and most importantly, without stepping out of your position. Because the secret isn't to win the argument, it's to preserve your authority. Machiavelli would say that reputation is more valuable than truth. And when you guide the room in your favor without looking like you're trying to prove anything, that's exactly what you strengthen. A reputation built on presence, posture, and strategic intelligence. In the next part, I'll show you how to handle more subtle provocations, the ones disguised as concern or polite criticism, and how to dismantle them using cold, calculated logic without even addressing the attack directly. How to punish someone without raising your voice or getting your hands dirty. Most people think punishing someone means confronting them, raising your voice, standing your ground, demanding accountability. Machiavelli would see that as a rookie mistake. People with real power don't need to justify themselves. They don't need to fight head-on. They know how to use time and perception as tools of punishment. When someone tries to attack you in public, provoke you, diminish you, or push you into a weaker position, a direct response only feeds the game. Even if you win with words, you're still playing on their level, and that alone means you've already given up some control. The most effective punishment doesn't come from attacking. It comes from the silent consequence. Machiavelli taught that the best way to weaken someone is to isolate them, not physically, but strategically. Strip away what gives them power, and often that means removing your attention, your presence, and your validation. You don't shout, you don't fight back. You simply stop responding the way you used to. You stop giving them a stage. You stop reacting. They keep trying to provoke you, but now they get silence, indifference, nothing. That eats them up from the inside, because their game only works if you care. When you break that cycle, they lose their role. If it's at work, you become professional but cold. You no longer open doors unless absolutely necessary. If it's in social settings, you stay present but distant, no longer offering the same access. And if it's someone close, you flip the switch. You don't cut them off, but you drain the connection. And what happens?
That person starts to feel the loss. It wasn't an argument. It was you. They lost your respect, your bond, your influence. And worst of all, they don't even know exactly when or how it happened. That's the kind of punishment Machiavelli would deliver. Slow, subtle, final. Because it doesn't damage your image. It does the opposite. It shows self-control, intelligence, and mastery of your presence. It's like taking the spotlight away from someone who lives for attention. They don't collapse right away, but they start to fade. And the most powerful part is this. Eventually, they realize the mistake was theirs, and now there's no way back in. No more access, no more space, just the silence of calculated absence. You don't have to threaten, you don't have to take revenge. You only need to make it clear that some actions have a price, and that price is losing access to you. No audience, no drama, no noise. That's the punishment that hurts the most and commands the most respect.